changes.
Life.
Welcome to our live stream here at Velden-Duffey. I'm Janus, Olivier. I studied in Potchefstroom, started in 2013, finished my degree 2016, commenced my articles here at Velden-Duffey, and I've been with the firm ever since in the commercial law department, conveyancing and deceased estates. So I'm not really your litigator, and that is why I have my colleague here to maybe address your more litigation specific questions. So yeah, Tandeka, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Tandeka Mpanza. I studied at the Northwest University, and I am a candidate attorney here at Velden-Duffey Attorneys. Yeah, I am your litigator. I am in the litigation department. I do your civil litigation, criminal litigation, labor litigation, so I'm your go-to girl.
Welcome to our stream once again. Any questions you might have for us, please post them in the chats. We are able to view them. We'll try to address them as far as we can. Maybe some background about Velden-Duffey. We are based in Rustenburg, the biggest law firm in Northwest. We try to compete with the big guys in Sandton and so on. They outnumber us staff-wise, but I think intellectually we tune up nice about against them. What would you say, Tandega?
Yeah, 10-0. We're up against the best. We are the best.
Yeah, obviously we are big enough to specialize, not as specialized as the bigger firms, because you sort of have to deal with what walks in the door. There's a certain, I think there's only two fields of law that we don't really practice in, which is taxation law as far as I'm concerned, and then intellectual property as well. But the rest, we try to really cover everything, and that also gives you some really nice experience, especially if you're doing your candidates for you, Tandega.
Exactly, because for me especially it was a matter of longevity and the different fields of law that you were exposed to as a candidate. I'm of the view that when you're done with your articles, you would have really been thoroughly in tune with the different fields of law, and I think by the time you're done, you'll be an A-OK lawyer.
Yeah, I must say I agree with you, and I remember from when I was a candidate, and it would be the same now, they try to rotate you on a 6-monthly basis. So during your 2 years of candidacy, you are at least going to be in 4 different departments. Obviously, there's a discussion with you, where would you like to go, and subject there to that there is a need for you to rotate to a department. Obviously not going to be 2 candidates at the same apartment, but I think that is something that the directors really try to put in an effort to give you as much experience as possible. That's the whole reason of your candidacy, to gain experience, not just get the 2 years behind your back, but actually gain some experience.
Exactly. And I think it's very important that you actually are. I think it is very important that you are exposed to all of that, so that by the time you're done with your articles, you can make an informed decision as to what area of law you want to specialize in.
Yeah, we see there's some comments about no sound. Can everyone hear us? I don't want to yell now. Maybe it's the masks. Unfortunately, we have to adapt to our situation. I don't want to put my colleague at risk or get a little tap over the fingers by some of the parliament members.
My clients will be very disappointed if I'm out of the game for.
So please let us know in the comments if you can't hear us, or if it's now better. We'd really appreciate that. But yeah, maybe talking about that experience, I remember my first day as a candidate, and it would be a bit fresh in your memory, but for me, arrived here, I was early, obviously, me and my 2 other colleagues that started with me. all suited up, happy about the first day, imagining Harvey Specter. I think we all watched Suits during your studies as a student, and you're expecting this to be a big shot lawyer. Came here, got my welcome pack, signed a few documents, headed to my office, and there I sat in my cubicle. It's a bit overwhelming, but once that started, there was really not, actually, to be quite honest, such a lot of stuff for me to do. I mean, you must first gain the trust of your director, who is above you. I think indexation and pagination was the first thing I had to do, and I had no clue at all what to do there.
My word. The queries at court. For me, my first day was kind of intimidating, you know. You get to this well-established law firm, and you feel like you're just a number, but once you actually get into it, we become a family.
Yeah, I agree. You have to make yourself a part of the system. I mean, what you put in is what you get out at the end of the day. I had to go to Bertie Grobler, was my director way back when. He's not at the firm anymore, and told him, Bertie, I'm here now, what can I do? Obviously, they are so busy, they're not going to think about sending you stuff, but as you make yourself a part of the family, they remember about you, and I think they then really try to go the extra mile if they see that you are willing to learn and you actually want to take that leap. They really try to help us. Don't know, something from your first day, unexpected, expected, was it what you expected or not really?
Well, there's a lot of paperwork for me too as well. First got there, signed a lot of documents, acquainted ourselves with the company policies and the different things. So, but yeah, it was what I was expected, in the sense that we didn't do much on the first day because you sort of acclimatize into the environment, getting to know everyone, and it took me a good month to get to know everyone's names.
Yeah, no, I must say, I'm actually glad that they didn't overwhelm us with work on the first day. I mean, the first week you figuring out how the system works. I mean, we're using Ghost Practice in the firm here. Really nice system once you get used to it, but making a note was a hell of a task on the first day. I had a senior candidate attorney that sort of showed me the ropes, and I made notes of everything, how to save an email, step 1, step 2, step 3. When I used to sit with my director and he gave me instructions, I recorded everything he said on my cell phone just to make sure that I'm not missing anything. You won't want to go back for the second time and say, sorry, what did you want me to do? I didn't listen, or I failed to take notes. Always rather safe than sorry, I would say.
Indeed. Janus, I see we have 2 questions there. I think take the first question and I'll take the second one.
The first question, how many branches does VVD have? So we actually have 2 branches, I would say. One is the satellite office, rather is the correct term, in Pretoria. So we obviously based here in Rustenburg, our main branch, big office. Then in Pretoria we have our office there, which is headed by Elnay Gerber, and she especially goes to the deeds office every day. All the property transfers in Rustenburg have to be registered in the deeds office at Pretoria. So that is why we thought it's a good idea to put a branch there in Pretoria for her to attend to the deeds office. And so that we don't have to use correspondence. We have our own firm there who obviously prioritizes us. And I think that also puts us in a bit of a better position than most of the competitors. But yeah, that is sort of, we have the 2 branches.
Well, I see the second question that we have there from Valdet Ryan. What is the most difficult part of articles for me? Well, for me in litigation, for one, always the first thing I would say is client expectation. You always have to work to have such a good work ethic that your clients are actually satisfied with your work, remembering that you are looking at a brand bigger than yourself, firstly. And secondly, other factors that you get difficulties at court regarding queries, which sometimes might prolong the litigation process, and sometimes clients aren't too happy about that. So it's learning to work with other people outside of yourself, understanding that this process takes other people as well.
Yeah, and I must warn the candidates that your peers will take advantage of you. If you're the new kid on the block, you meet them in court. Luckily, as you know, I'm not going to court anymore, but for the first few months of my articles, they will step over you, they will walk over you, so that's one of the difficulties. That lasts for about a month or so, then you are initiated and part of the team. Another difficult part, maybe from a different angle, is it's everything doesn't actually have to do with legal work. You find out that there's a lot about marketing that suddenly plays a role. They don't teach you that in university. You must know the law, yes, that's one thing, but you need to get clients in the office or you won't make money. So marketing takes up a big chunk of your time, and as a candidate attorney, if there's drinks to be made or if there's a gazebo to be set up, that's your job as well. So you shouldn't be afraid of rolling up your sleeves and getting your hands dirty. That's part of the game, unfortunately. Tandeka, we have another question here. How do you balance your work and your private life? Would you want to answer that one?
Well, I think how I balance my work and my private life is what my principal always says to me. He always says in Tswana that you must allow yourself to be a bar. You must allow yourself to be in a sense, you must allow yourself to be receptive to learning. So these 2 years, you sort of understand that you need to grasp as much as you can in your articles, but of course you need to balance it too. You need to go out. Unfortunately, we can't go out for drinks now because of the national lockdown. But meeting up with other people, sort of striking that balance, it works. So you need to.
Yeah, you need to, as you say, strike that balance, and I think you must be intentional about that.
Exactly.
I mean, you're not going to suddenly get free time over the weekends. You might think, lucky it's weekend, but there's always work to do. I think you would be able to stay busy for the 24 hours of each day, but at some stage you must have a rule. It's 9 o'clock or it's 8 o'clock or 5:30, depending on your personal circumstances. Shut down the laptop. It's now time for your family or for your friends. Luckily, as you are younger, you don't have a family yet, many of the younger guys, so we can sort of prioritize work a bit more now. For me, I get activities that I have to do. Weekly appointments, I would say. We have the touches on Tuesday, so you get a group that you're part of. You have, let's call them dinner dates, or people that you often meet with, so that Thursday nights I'm not working late, I'm meeting someone for drinks, and something in your social calendar. Otherwise, if you don't already allocate the time for socializing, it's just going to be taken over by work, especially under the pressure that we are. Do we have another question there? Oh, it's one for me. How do you find your field of practice, and what led you to mainly want to practice in that area? I'm going to be quite honest here. When I was a student, I thought I'm going to be the typical attorney, going to court, battling it out over there. As I mentioned now, during my first few months of articles, I was in the family law department, so I went to court. And then actually one of our conveyancers left the firm to go work in Pretoria, I think. And a spot opened up for me, and the directors actually made the decision to rotate me to the conveyancing and the deceased estates department. And I don't want to say I just fell in love with it, but for lack of a better word, of a better expression, I did fall in love with it. I'm very passionate about that. So I was sort of nudged into that profession, but I'm very grateful about that. I think there was definitely a higher power involved in there as well to make sure that you end up where you have to end up. And I hope that's the best for you. Obviously, the directors, they invited me for a chat and asked me, are you still happy? Would you want to rotate or consider something else? But as I said, I was very happy, and that is sort of how I ended up where I ended up there, Lebogang. Thanks for that question.
I see we also have a question from Mary Ackerman. Is there a large gap between the academic work and the practical training, and what can I do as a student to prepare myself therefore? I would think there's a very large gap.
Yeah, there is a large gap. Definitely, we can elaborate on this.
Yeah, we had law clinic at Podge, so that sort of made introduced you a bit to what you would expect in court work in terms of court decorum, how you conduct yourself and so on. But nothing really prepares you. I think you just sort of learn on the job, eh?
Yeah, definitely not. I have, had the discussion with some of my colleagues that as with teachers, where you go to schools and you are there for about a month, a year or 2 months, I'm not quite sure of the time period, there should be something similar for law students as well. And I think it's only in your final years we have that practical course, and you can only teach someone so much in that specific area of time. You have 2 or 3 periods a week where you're now supposed to learn about something that takes you 4 years to get a degree. So there is a huge gap. Luckily you catch on quickly because you have the theory behind you, but it's theory is theoretical. I mean, in practice it doesn't work like that. You're gonna go up against an attorney and attack him with the theory. Your matter is never ever even going to end up in court. He's going to sort it out way before then with street smarts. So there's some value in studying.
Mm.
It helps you to think about the correct items or dispute matters or facts, whatever the case might be. But there's a gap, and experience is worth a hell of a lot, in my opinion.
But yeah, my advice would just be receptive to learning. You come there with your degree and you're awesome, and we acknowledge that, but be receptive that you can be the barrier of the world, but you never stop learning, so keep that in mind.
Yeah, I mean, the textbooks, for example, let's go back to our example of indexing and paginating. The textbook says you must index and paginate. The first time your director tells you, here's a file, index and paginate, you have no clue what to do. You don't know where to go to court to get the file. You must check if the file is up to date. Where do you index? Luckily, we know now in the top right-hand corner with a pencil, and if that indexing is wrong, you feel like such an idiot if you stand in court and the pages don't match up or whatever. So, yeah, I think the studies must be more practical, and I would definitely advise, if you do have the ability or the opportunity to go to do vacation work, definitely grab that opportunity with both hands. It's definitely going to work you. Next question there from Velden: which departments do you work? As I mentioned, I work in the commercial law department, coupled with conveyancing and the administration of deceased estates, sort of the clean law as it's often referred to. I never really go to court, so attorney and being an attorney is more than just going to court and smashing over the doors and saying objection, Your Honor. There's a lot more to it.
Well, like I also said, I work in the litigation department, and yeah, we also do get training in management. I must say that I think when you leave Van Velden, you become a really well-rounded attorney. We do a lot of training in management, IT as well. We also have training for the professional staff on every Wednesday.
Yeah,
that's very interesting.
That's something that I was interesting, and it caused a bit of fear in me as well. Training, you're sitting with the directors and all of your colleagues, and you now need to discuss a court case. During varsity, I really hated discussing a court case and talking in front of everyone. What if you interpret it wrong? But that actually not only keeps you abroad and abreast of and up to date of what is going on in the law as it develops by way of case law, but it helps you to talk in front of people, and you're being criticized by them, but 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, you're over that, and it helps you much more, especially you guys going to court. I think that's a great skill that you're learning there. Other training that we received, you touched on the IT training. I know in my department, we have weekly discussions on Monday morning. We get the week started by looking at what went wrong the previous week, for example. What can we learn about that? So it will depend on each department, how it is run, but there's sort of general training for everyone, and then departmental training. I know how it works in my department. There's a lot of courses by the Law Society as well that we get to attend to. There's a training committee here at Van Velden-Duffey that is registered to those newsletters. And if it's in your specific field, I will send that to you and actually invite you. Listen, go to this webinar. It's now all webinars. We used to go to Pretoria and attend those training sessions, and then give feedback to the staff as well. So they really try to make an effort to make sure that we go to training. Is there another questions there for us?
Like Susan there.
Yes, Susan, tell us what you enjoy the most about being an attorney. Well, for now, I enjoy being an attorney. I think as a child, I was often scolded for sticking my nose where it didn't belong. If I see two people fighting, I wanted to get involved, and not physically, but I would say, you're unreasonable, and it's actually not my place. And now as an attorney, you're sort of getting paid to sort out people's problems. So that's one of the big advantages for me. I really like that you get paid for your opinion. And you get to help people. It's nice to get a file from day one and take it all the way through to the end, and you see that you actually did make a difference. If this person didn't come to you or didn't go to any attorney, he would have been in such a worse position. So it's nice to see that you are able to help someone there, and it's a gratifying experience. I think that would be, for me, the best of being an attorney. What about you, Tandeka?
Janus, you took the words straight out of my mind. I was about to say the very same thing. Client satisfaction, just knowing that you sort of alleviated a problem from a client really makes me happy. Apart from the fact that we get paid for it as well. But just that client satisfaction really is the biggest reward at the end of the day for me.
Yeah, seeing that you help the client, I mean, when a client seeks help from an attorney or advice from an attorney, it's often in this case where his back is really against the wall.
Yes.
So helping a client there, I mean, he's seeing this as the end of the world. It's his problem. You've dealt with many similar problems, so you keep the client calm. And I just love it if a client really appreciates what you're doing and you can see that you made a difference. Second, or another question, what made you choose this as a profession? For me, I sort of have a story that my father studied law, BCom law, and my grandpa was actually a judge, or rather just a magistrate. He unfortunately passed away whilst I was still young, but I always feel like I think law is still in my blood.
Yeah.
It might not be the case, but I like to think that my grandpa is real proud of me, and I know my father is. So that is sort of why I went into law. Had nice discussions with my father about that whilst he was deciding what to go to study. And obviously you think you want to be an attorney, and you go and study LLB and you become an attorney. So that's quite easy to make that decision for me.
Well, I'm sure your grandfather is very proud wherever he is right now.
Thanks, Thandeka.
You recently got admitted as a conveyance and a notary.
Yeah, I got that checked as well. Difficult process. I studied hard. That's something that doesn't fall onto your lap. But yeah, maybe I don't want to fixate on myself now.
Well, for me, I think I've just always, well, firstly, my mom wanted me to be a chartered accountant, but I was terrible at maths. They've never done my calling. But like you, I also think that a higher power is in control. I love talking. I love helping people. I love litigation. It comes very naturally to me. So I think that's what really drew me towards law.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that you love litigation. I think we must understand there are horses for courses. If you don't judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, they always say, you're a litigant, you're going to be an excellent litigant. I always feel like, yes, if I now go back to court, firstly, I think the floor is going to be white with me because I don't know the rules. Luckily, it's not expected of me to know the court rules. But yeah, you must fall in love with what you are doing. Another question that we have there, how's COVID changed the way that you work at VVD? Well, obviously, first things, you struggle to hear us by way of a practical example. The masks becoming a huge issue. We have the sanitizing bottle there in the corner. You won't be able to see that, but that's just, the things that we see now. Rotation of staff, not always able to go into work, especially all the clients, consultations with all the clients being cancelled at the last minute because there's just a bit of a health scare, and you must respect that. Webinars like this becoming, an everyday thing now. Doing webinars, Microsoft Teams, didn't know what it was. Now we are all sort of experts, I believe, in Microsoft Teams. So yeah, COVID really made a change, but at the end of the day, adapt and overcome. Would you agree, Thandeka?
I would agree exactly. I'm now a Microsoft Teams expert, I must say. But for me, from a litigation point of view, it becomes very difficult with the courts, more especially.
Sure.
When there is a positive case at court, I think court last week, the Rustenburg Magistrates Court was closed for the whole week last week. And you can imagine that matters that have been re-enrolled, they have to be postponed and so on. So it sort of brings delays. But we're sort of learning how to live with it. Now we're having trials via Zoom, via WhatsApp, motion. We have a motion code via WhatsApp. So it's doable. We're learning to live with it.
Yeah, and something from my side of the law, the conveyancing part, we work closely with this thing is bothering me now. We work closely with the municipalities, for example, the master's office, and due to the COVID, they are closed or they're open at 30% staff, so everything takes a lot longer. And explaining that to the clients, they think it's van Velden-Duffey that's doing the work, so you must really try to make an effort and follow up more regularly. That is something that has certainly changed in due to COVID as well. I mean, initially under level 5 they were closed, so everything stopped. It's only now starting to get the ball back on the roll again. But yeah, Thandeka, I see there's a question for you. What advice do you have for final year law student looking into starting with their articles?
This is quite a very interesting question, because more especially we know that finding articles is rather difficult, I must say. But I think that students really need to make an informed decision about the law firm that they serve their articles in, because that to a very large extent motivates the kind of lawyer that you end up becoming. So look for a law firm that is very renowned, that is in line with what you want to practice. But ultimately, apply early as well, as early as you can.
Definitely.
Yeah, I would advise final year students to actually start applying now, or at least if you want to come to Van Velden.
Yeah, send out the CVs and don't send out 2 or 3 or 5. So I think I sent out about 30 CVs. That's unfortunately, you know, jobs aren't everywhere, candidacies aren't everywhere. So you must, you know, put as many lines in the water as possible if you want to catch that fish. Another question from Lebogang there: does your firm ever take students for vacation work? No, we don't really have vacation work programs at our firm, Lebu.
I see we have another question there by Esmery. What is the kind of work environment culture like at your firm?
Esmery, for me, obviously it's a subjective view, but I enjoy it. I don't think anyone is going to sit at the webinar and trash talk their firm. So for the directors that's listening, I'm loving it here. Maybe you can drop me a personal email later on and I might be... No, I'm just joking. No, I think the culture at Van Velden-Duffey, as I said, they really try to include you. Before the lockdown, we had a weekly, a monthly scheduled period for drinks for, you know, for all of the younger guys, so that we can get to know each other. We have mass meetings, which is just a lekker kuier actually. We have professional staff functions, which is another lekker kuier. There's really a culture of you must get to know one another. We are a big firm, as I said, but we're not so big that you don't know who are your colleagues, and I think that is something that I really enjoy about Van Velden-Duffey, and they you know, do go through the trouble to ensure that that is the culture that remains here, that you know who you're talking with, and you actually know something personal about them. They're not just your colleague, they're sort of family. You said
Exactly.
that, Tandeka. Would you agree? Yeah.
I would agree, definitely. I mean, for me, 2 things stand out for me. How tight-knit the professional staff at least are, right? They really try and foster that relationship of tight-knitness that we work. You just knock on Janus's door when you have an issue and you ask and you're assisted immediately. But also the culture of excellence, really. I think we are excellent at what we do, and you're surrounded by all these very smart people, and you cannot help but be excellent as well, eh?
Yeah, you strive to be the best, certainly. I think I can just add on to Esme's question, the environment or environment. I must just say that at Van Velden-Duffey there's also a lot of resources. You won't be able to see this now as well, I believe, but we're sitting in the library. There's a lot of textbooks that help you to do research. We have Utah Law and Utah Stat, other exceptionally well resources. So I would say that's part of the environment to answer your question. Another question from Angelique: what would you say you would like to do more, work in the office or do more court appearances? Obviously for me, work in the office, I've often say, this might sound a bit boring, but if you can lock my office door and just slide pizza underneath the door every now and then, I will be happy as a bird, you know, happy as a clam.
Well, I'm quite the opposite. I mean, if I don't go to court and say, your worship, no, I will not be okay. I'm definitely more your court type of girl. But yeah, COVID has really impacted, like I said earlier. But we're making a way. We're having these trials via Zoom and Microsoft Teams, so it's working out quite well, I must say.
Yeah, the court appearances, I was just add on to that. When Anna wanted to be admitted as notary, as you mentioned, it was on Microsoft Teams. Initially it was on Skype, then on Microsoft Teams. The power tripped at the court and we had to postpone. So that is some of the hassles that you have to deal with. And you know, I need to drive all the way to Matthew King just to sit in front of a computer there, which I felt was a bit unnecessary, because I could have just done it in my office.
Exactly.
But yeah, that's the way the cookie crumbles, unfortunately, Tandeka, that we have to deal with that. I'm not sure if there are any other questions for us now at the moment. Maybe if you want to apply to do your candidate, your articleship here, the links are already on the chat. It's going to be on the chats once again at the end of our webinar. You're welcome to visit our website. There's a lot of FAQs there as well that you can check out if you have any questions for us. Or you can just send an email if there's specific questions that you would answer that we didn't cover here today, or if you maybe didn't have a chance to address your questions to us.
But tell me, Janus, why Van Velden? Why did you specifically come here?
Why Van Velden? I was lucky enough to get an interview here. I had one or two other interviews as well in Brits, for example, and I just decided Van Velden and Duffey. I mean, I remember my interview was in this boardroom as well. Four of the directors that were here, and the questions that they addressed, you could see that this is the firm. They're actually interested in you as a person, and not just in your knowledge. They wanted to know, how are you part of the community? What's your community involvement? So it's more than just being a lawyer and being the top firm. They really want to make a good impression. I started here, they invited me, the touches I referred to, it was the directors that invited me. They reached out there, and I went onto the website as well. I would advise anyone that is interested in applying for the articles, go and do your research on the specific firms, see what areas of law they practice in. There was sports law that we practice in, and I was very interested in that. What is sports law, and I asked a few questions to my interviewers on that as well, and I think that impressed them. So it showed them that I did my research as well. But yeah, that is how I ended up at VVD. I got accepted. Long story short.
On a lighter note, I must say, when I came to interview, they gave us petrol money, so that I was really chuffed about that.
Yeah.
I was really excited about
I think
that.
once again, that just speaks about the culture here at Van Velden and Duffey, yes. So we have another question. Would you say you are in a better position, or alternatively more privileged, to be able to do your articles in such a big firm rather than a small firm? I think we touched on that, the experience, and because the departments are specialized. I think the small firms, yes, they do everything as well, but you're sort of a jack of all trades, so you might not have that in-depth experience. And if you deal with a new matter here, you can quickly go to one of the directors who has been practicing that area of law for 20, 30 years, and you can ask them a question and they would immediately be able to put you on the right track. Whereas in a smaller firm, you throw into the deep end and you must now battle for yourself. So I think that is the main benefit for bigger firms, that there are these numerous individuals who you can ask for advice and guidance. That would be my response to that, Tandeka. I hope you agree with me.
No, definitely, 100% I agree with you. And again, just to touch on you being able to make a well-rounded decision when you're done as to which area of law you want to specialize in, I think this exposes you to that.
Yeah, and whilst we're talking about the guidance now, at Van Velden and Duffey a few years ago, I think it was last year, we started, or the directors once again started with this mentorship program where each professional staff member, you got to choose a mentor, which was one of the directors, to sort of mentor you further. Even though you finished with your articles and got that training, you now get a real close relationship with your mentor then, and they can tell you, work on this, work on that, this is what the feedback from the staff is about you. And that also assists a lot in developing yourself and forming yourself into not only a better lawyer but also a better person.
Exactly. No, agreed.
Yeah.
I see we have another question there from Palesa. Is it a prerequisite for a candidate attorney to have their own car at Van Velden and Duffey? Luckily, it's not.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, to my knowledge, it's not a prerequisite. So if you don't have a car, you're more than welcome to apply.
Yeah, we have. I think we have 3 cars or 2 cars here at the firm. My knowledge is a bit outdated now on this topic, but they are Van Velden and Duffey cars. If you have to go to court, you must just arrange and make sure the car is available. Or either if you don't have a driver's license, you can arrange for someone to quickly take you to court and collect you, or wherever you have to go. So yeah, it's not a requirement. A question from Pamela: which fields of law does your firm specialize in, and do candidate attorneys get to rotate to different departments? Yeah, Pamela, we quickly touched on that a while ago. You do rotate on a 6-monthly basis. Maybe just a quick recap for everyone who joined us now a bit later. Yeah, you rotate every 6 months. The directors do have a chat with you. Do they still do that? And they can find out where do you want to go, what is actually your interest.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, and then we specialize in all fields of the law except then taxation and intellectual property is the fields that we don't really specialize in. Yeah.
I see we have another question from Baldet. What advice do you have for young would assume attorneys, upcoming attorneys, Janus and Tandeka, who is now starting
with articles. It's a humbling experience. Don't walk into the firm and expect the Harvey Specter experience. It might sound like I'm fixated on that, but I think in all honesty, that is the picture that you have in your head, or you want to be this Twitter or Instagram attorney, Santon attorney. In reality, you're going to wait in court for 2 hours, or you're going to wait at the municipality for 2 to 3 hours, same with the master. We work with specific government departments, and you need to hurry up and wait. That's how it is. So, get your mindset straight. That would be my first advice. And then, make peace with the fact that you're not as smart as you think you are. Yeah. You might have the theory, but for the first month or 2 months, you go to the secretaries and ask them, because they know more than you. You might think you're fancy with your degree, but the secretaries are your friends. Ask them, they know and you don't know. That's unfortunately the case, or that was my view, at least, on Deka.
Yeah, no, you and I seem to be in sync today. I would agree that it's truly a humbling experience. But my advice would just be for you to be receptive to learning, be open to learning. In the words, I like quoting this a lot, Mr. Mukoteri's words, allow yourself to be an idiot for that period as to allow you to learn. And yeah,
the thing is, I didn't know everything, you didn't know everything, and the directors know that as well. They don't expect you to be this a big short candidate attorney now to know everything. So go and ask questions. They actually expect it of you, and I think they would respect you for that if you ask questions and show some initiative and intuitivity that you want to learn something and that you're struggling with something. Another personal piece of advice, maybe that's just for me. Don't just go to the director and say, you're struggling, what should you do now? Just at least say, I've now looked into this and this and this. This is what I think, and show them that you have made an effort, and they can then assist you. And that would also help you to better understand if you at least looked into the question, or the if you had to do a legal opinion or whatever, if you already did some research on that topic.
Okay. I see we have another question from Dumole too. After completing the LLB degree, what are the available routes for one to consider?
Yeah, well, it used to be an attorney or an advocate. We're now legal practitioners, but that's sort of still your main, in my opinion, that's sort of your main route. You can also go and be a legal consultant or a legal advisor for one of the big companies like Sanlam or Mutual, for example. There's a lot of NPOs, non-profit organizations, which you can go and work for. Legal aid, for example, as well. You don't have to become an attorney. If you have anything to add on that,
you can also consider joining the National Prosecuting Authority as a prosecutor. Sure. I think they still have the aspirant program going on there. There are many things you can do with your LLB degree, I must say.
Yeah, and then thereafter you can decide if you want to specialize, get a master's degree or a diploma on a specific field of the law. Obviously, you can get your notary and conveyancing if you want to specialize into that field of the law. And just keep on training yourself and get better. Next question there. What is it like? There are articles. Okay, that's what we just touched on. Velden, what does Van Velden-Duffey look for in candidate attorneys? Is grades the most important path? From personal experience, I think we can say no. No. That's not the most important. As I mentioned, they are interested in what type of person you are, your character, and would you be able to add on to the firm?
Yes.
You don't just want someone who's a theoretical genius and has had good marks, but he studied 90% of the time, they don't really have a social life. You must be able to connect with the clients. At the end of the day, we work with people, so people skills extremely important. If there's a marketing function, or you just meet someone at Spar, for example, you want to be able to chat and be approachable. I think that is a huge factor that you want in your candidate attorneys.
Yeah, and just be willing to work hard and have an incredible work ethic. I think that's very important too.
Yeah, obviously grades do play a factor, but I don't think they are the final factor
Yeah.
based on which the decision would be made. I always argue that I think your grades is the thing that you put on your CV. So your grades might very well land you the interview or your CV, the quality of your CV, but at the end of the day, that's definitely, in my opinion, not going to determine whether or not you're being appointed, be that as a candidate attorney or in any field of work, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely agreed.
Yeah, is there another question? Yeah, what would be a typical next career move for someone in your position? Well, yeah, you must sort of decide what are your goals. Do you want to become a director at your firm? Do you want to gain experience for a few years, maybe open up your own practice? Would you maybe want to become an advocate? It sort of depends on what you want to do. Typical for me, I like van Velden-Duffey. I want to get a property and a family here and maybe retire at van Velden-Duffey and in Rustenburg one day. But that's my plan for now. It might change in a few years if you meet someone and they want to move to Canada or whatever. That's unfortunately so. So the typical next move is really going to depend on your own personal views, in my opinion. There you go.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, you might want something today, tomorrow your whole life changes. So yeah, it's typically up to the person what you want for your own life. I think, yeah.
Yeah, I think obviously companies value loyalty.
Yes.
So if you apply here and we see this is your fourth company, you've been using companies as a stepping stone, that would obviously count against you. So I don't think you must go into that mindset that being an attorney is just a stepping stone, unless that is part of your plan and you are open to your interviewers about that and tell them that you want to gain experience and in a certain area of the field or whatever the case might be. Next question there, maybe what primary job responsibilities would a new candidate attorney have? Tandeka, maybe you can take this one now as being the candidate here. You're the expert amongst us.
Well, there's a lot, Barry, I must say. I wouldn't try and categorize it to any primary responsibilities. But from a litigation point of view, you can already expect that you're going to do a lot of drafting, a lot of court attendances, a lot of queries at court, the famous indexing and paginating, you know that.
Yeah. Sorry, just to stop you there, it might be a bit rude, but you're actually going to court and you're doing the appearances. I want to fixate on that. There's a lot of firms, the candidate, you just go with your principal and he does the court appearances. Or if there's something that they don't want to do, that file is going to be yours. Yes, that still happens, but you actually get a file from start to finish. You do all the court appearances, so that would be some of your responsibilities.
I must actually, that's actually a very good point. We do a lot of court appearances, I must say. I actually had my first opposed motion this morning, which was actually quite very interesting. And we also have the candidate attorneys, even though you might not be in the litigation department, but we have a roster where every Wednesday and Thursday we do a motion court, and you will be doing motion court whether you're in the litigation department or not. So those are just some of the things that you can expect.
Yeah, with the roster, the same with the bail roster as well. You're going to do bail applications, and there's a roster. So for after-hour bail applications, you as the candidate, you must be available. The admitted attorneys as well, they're part of that roster. Your responsibilities, I just want to summarize this question. At the end of the day, it's going to depend once again on what you put in. If you are a 9-to-5 kind of guy, basically you are an employee and then you're going to be treated as an employee. So employers get paid their salary, and not really much is expected from them, subject to their work, so what is in their contract. But if you put more in and you show that you can take more responsibility, you will get more responsibility at the end of the day. So it all depends on you. Another question, would start my articles involve any lifestyle changes such as frequent travel or late night working? Tandeka, maybe once again for you, if I can put you in the hot seat.
Mary, I must say it's a weird day for me if I leave the office while the sun is still shining. So there will be a lot of late night working, I must say. And lifestyle changes, definitely. I mean, you sometimes come in during the weekends, but that's just the service that we want to give to our clients, and also for your own personal growth as well. You learn a lot, and sometimes it does require that. It won't be every day, of course.
No, definitely
Yeah.
not. Once again, what you put in is what you get
get.
out. If you want to be better than the rest, you have to work harder than the rest. Especially in winters,
Yeah.
you arrive before the sun is up and you go home and it's dark.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, that's just how it is. Not really frequent travel. I see that's part of your question,
Yeah.
Maria. Don't frequent to travel more than you would normally do. If there's matters in other jurisdictions, you would rather appoint a correspondent to attend to that for you. We don't travel a lot. That's obviously additional fees for the clients, so we try to limit that as well and not prejudice the clients. Is the next question, what personality traits would you say is important to have as an attorney? The answer that people are always looking for here is that you must be unemotional.
Yeah.
That is part of the answer. I think you must know when to get emotionally involved, which is basically never, except for the family law department. If someone is crying, you can give the occasional tissue or so. But I think you must be a logical thinker and you must be able to think on your feet. That must be part of your personality. You shouldn't take something personally. I mean, you have colleagues that you work with every day from different firms. You shake hands, you break bread together. But if you then you have an opposed matter against them, don't take it personally if they call you out on something. That's just the way it is. So I think that is something that you as an attorney must make sure about, that your mindset is once again right when you start with being an attorney. It's just business, I think, is a saying that's normally used.
Yeah. And people skills too, eh?
Yeah, definitely. People skills. Once again, we work with people, so
Exactly.
that's I think that's personality traits as well. Unfortunately, we studied law. We're not psychologists, but to my mind, that's a personality trait. Are there any specific subjects which we need to focus on that you use a lot in practice? Yeah, it's a difficult question. It depends on where you work. Different firms, they specialize in different fields of the law. Here with us, you must know what's going on in court rules. Unfortunately, in varsity, I think there's two cases about the rules of court for civil litigation and court procedure. So those are actually the subjects that you must really do well in. Know your court rules, criminal law as well. I don't think there's really other subjects where you can sort of specialize and say these ones are really important for practice. Once again, you must sort of have a general understanding of everything so that you can apply it. The law is integrated. Different fields of law work together, so you can't really focus on one aspect of the law. In my opinion, I might be wrong, but that's how I feel about that.
No, I agree with you 100%.
Okay.
See, we have another question. Are there any professional organizations I should be aware of or join as a new candidate attorney? Well, yeah, I know from a litigation point of view, you have NADEL, the National Association of Democratic Lawyers. You have the BLA, the Black Law Association. I think there are also quite a few conveyancing associations as well, Janus?
Yeah, there are associations, and the legal community as a whole they actually try to help you. So there's specific platforms. You don't have to join them, but they're to your benefit. It's just people getting together who want to help each other. So if you have a problem, you can pose your question there, and a colleague will answer you, and 2 months later they're gonna pose the question there for which you know the answer. But there are not really specific fields that are specific organizations that I would believe you have to join for being an attorney. It's all up to you once again, and there might be different organizations once again depending on where you practice and where you're doing your articles. So you might ask around there in the area where you're going to do your candidacy.
Let's see.
Any other?
Yeah, we do have another question, which I will pass to Janus. What would be a reasonable salary range to expect if I entered this field?
Depend on where you work. Obviously, the bigger firms, they have more capital, so they pay bigger salaries. Depend on how good you are. I know about for candidates, they range from I think 3,000 a month up until some of the bigger firms. I've heard rumors about 20,000 a month. I can't really confirm that. But I think generally you're looking for a candidate between, I would say, 5,000 and maybe 12,000 would still be, a reasonable and a general salary. But yeah, then there afterwards, I think it's going to depend on your performance and how much you are actually worth to the company. Once again, what you put in is what you get out. That is the way of the game. Any other questions? Yeah, what sets VVD apart from other law firms? Tandeka, what was it for you?
Well, for me, it has to be the fact that though we are in essence a big firm, but the work that we are exposed to, and we don't do grant work, we do actual litigation. I think the manner in which they train their candidates really sits apart from other firms for me.
Yeah, for me, the culture here at Velden-Duffey, you're not just a law firm and you come into the office, do your job and you go home. It's about more than that. At the end of the day, we want to be able to even bribe with each other.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think a lot of firms do that. So that for me sets VVD apart from the other law firms, and we try to get the best service at the end of the day to our clients. And we have these training seminars to make sure that we all stay up to date. VVD just does a lot of extra special things that it just completely sets it apart for me from the other firms. I think we can have a long chat about this, about all the individual things that are done, but yeah, VVD is to me, they're in another league. They're in a league of their own.
Kudos to the directors. Doing
Yeah,
a good
well
job.
done, well done. Will a postgraduate qualification improve your chance for being considered for a candidate attorney position? Yeah, I would believe so.
Yeah.
If one looks at it objectively, you're going to have an additional qualification. Obviously, I think it must be within the area of the law. So if you
Yeah.
have a postgraduate qualification in, I don't know what, something that doesn't have to do anything with the law, it might not really have an influence. But yeah, generally, one would definitely look into that. Once again, we said now grades isn't the only important factor. But yeah, would you agree, Tandeka? I think
No,
once again, we synced, you said earlier.
Yeah, no, we say.
Okay.
I see we have another question from Franzel Moyeng. How does your studies relate to practice? For example, what you study as a teacher differs tremendously from what you get in the classroom. Well, again, I think we touched a bit on this. They differ tremendously, but in a sense they do. The Bachelor of Laws degrees is a very broad degree. You do a bit of everything. So you are prepared a bit for civil litigation, for your criminal litigation with your civil procedure modules and stuff like that. But a lot of the things you learn on the job, practice is quite different from theory. Would you agree, Janus?
Yeah, I agree with you and Franzel. I think you are also correct there. It differs. So you just get the theory. That is basically what you get at varsity. There's one subject where they try to teach you some of the practice, but in practice, the way the theory is applied, I think that will differ depending on where you are as well. And who your directors are, they might want something done, in another way. Obviously, there's the court rules that one always have to apply to. But there's definitely a gap between what you studied and what happens in the practice, because no one really tells you how you need to apply those theory that you studied. So it's not difficult to catch on. I think you can leave yourself about a month or 2 months, then you sort of found your feet, and from there on you'll be able to know whether or not you're going to make it as an attorney or not, or whether this is the profession for you or not.
Indeed.
Do we have another? Yeah, if I get appointed at Velden-Duffey, but I've never lived in Rustenburg, will the firm assist me to find accommodation and introduce me to people? Well, yeah, I think if you ask around, they would definitely assist you. I know that I was not really assisted by the firm, but some of the directors' friends, and we had a chat, and they told me about a place that was open. So there's not really a program as such for a housing project or something like that. But if you ask the right questions, definitely they would be able to assist you. They can put you in touch with the right people.
We have another question from Mari. It says, does your firm provide some financial assistance or financial aid? For example, a legal secretary to start working towards his or her LLB degree? I think Janus would be in a better position to answer.
Marie, I must say I'm not sure if they provide a legal assistance. I actually don't think so. But if you, once again, chat with your director, you might be able to work out something. But I don't think so. And if you are, this is for candidates, so I don't think the firm offers that, no.
But I must say that the firm does pay for our practical legal training, also pay for our board exams, so that's great as well.
Yeah, and that practical vocational training, you don't have to take your leave if you have to attend that.
Exactly.
Some other firms I've heard of, and I was very sad for my fellow learned colleagues. They had to take their leave, and I think that's 2 or 3 weeks out of your year that you need to attend to that practical vocational training. So there goes your leave for the year. Yeah, at Velden-Duffey at least, you don't have to take your leave. That's sort of part of your training. You have to attend that. So yeah, don't worry too much about that. Do we have another question from Esmery? Does your firm provide bursaries to students? I think that's sort of seen in the same light as with the secretaries. Now, our firm unfortunately does not provide bursaries as far as I'm concerned. Unless you want to differ from me, Tandeka,
I agree.
but I hope not. Thank you. Another question, in your view, what are the major problems or opportunities facing the legal interests? Yeah, that is a good question. Problems is, for me, the fact that I don't want to diss, the courts or the master's office, but the problems that we concern or have in my area is that you have to work with them. So you cannot transfer property without getting that, for example, a clearance certificate from the municipality. And if they decide that they're not going to work or the system is offline, then unfortunately you're stuck and you have to make an attendance another day. Same with the courts, I believe.
Exactly.
If the files are missing or if someone doesn't want to help you, that is a problem area there for us. I just want to make sure that I answered the question. Yeah, what are the major opportunities facing the legal industry? I think, and that was underlined a bit more by this COVID situation that we're in now. There's a lot of opportunity to grow actually into the electronic or digital age. Attorneys, you come into the office and you sign on paper, and that's sent to the next guy who sign on paper. So I think the law can develop a hell of a lot more there. I know for the deeds registries, for example, there is now an act in place that will make it possible for electronic registrations, but we're still waiting on the regulations. So the law is going to develop into that, sort of the fourth industrial revolution, I think is what they're calling it.
Indeed.
Yeah, not sure any other problems, major problems that you are aware of.
You know what? Besides the whole court issues,
Yeah.
files actually do get missing a lot at court. It happens a lot. So those are just the minor things we have to deal with. Last question from Offense. When is it the right time for a law student to apply for articles in your firm? Or which year of studies can they start applying?
Well, apply in your final year, because
Yes.
we make appointments for the next year. So send us your CV in your final year. But if you want to make sure that we keep you on the radar, you can send us your CV in your third year and just let us know. Van Velden-Duffey, please keep me in mind. I'm ending with my studies next year. I'm then going to send my updated CV, but I would really like to go and do my articles at your firm. But yeah, it should be in your last year, because we're going to appoint for the following year. For joining us today, Tandeka, I think I had a great time chatting with you.
Yeah.
It was lekker to be in sync.
Yeah, no, it was wonderful. Hey?
Yeah, and for all the viewers and the listeners, wherever you might be, you can follow us on social media. We are active on Twitter. You can join our Facebook page. Obviously, I've mentioned now the web page where you can come and visit us, frequently ask questions, or if you just want to get in contact, the links will once again be posted at the end of the chat here, so you can just click on those links. And yeah, we look forward to meeting you and receiving your applications. Strongs with those final exams, and just have a great 2020 for what it's worth.
What it's worth, hey? Make it happen.
Cheers.